Hey guys, I'm Georgia and welcome back for another episode of my Midweek mystery series, where today I'm going to be sharing the story of Ernie Ortiz. This isn't going to be the longest video I've ever made, but I was contacted by a family member of Ernie's who wanted me to share his story, his great niece Avery, who has helped me so much in the writing of this script. Whilst this case is sealed to the public, with Avery's help and some news stories, we've managed to piece together information from all of the coverage of this case thus far. It's yet another one of those cases wherein the police investigation has come to a standstill, and as a result, the family are trying to work up as much publicity as possible, in the hope that someone somewhere might know something and come forward. This case is just over 2 years old now, and they're no closer to closure, answers or justice, so we really do need all eyes and ears on it. It was the 12th September 2019 when 69-year-old Ernie Ortiz died at St. Catherine Hospital in Garden City, Kansas. It was late on that Thursday when Ernie was found fatally wounded in the car park of his own restaurant, El Conquistador, one of the most popular Mexican restaurants in Garden City. He'd opened it 39 years previously. The restaurant was Ernie's pride and joy, as well as a second home for him and his family. He showed up every single day, ready to greet his customers with a smile. At 10:55 p.m, the Garden City Police received a report of a person down next to the restaurant and arrived to find a man, Ernie, wounded as the result of multiple gunshots. It was believed by police early on that the shooting may have been the result of robbery. However, many question if there was another reason for the murder. The crime scene was cordoned off and officers searched for evidence there and around the immediate area. Interestingly, when looking at news photos of this crime scene, it appears that many of Ernie's belongings had been left at the scene by the perpetrator or perpetrators. If this was a robbery, one would expect the perpetrator to at least take something, but yet it appears that nothing was missing. Hence why many dispute this crime being ruled as a robbery. It leaves room for a lot of questions regarding the motive and nature of this case. Ernie had a huge family. He was one of 14 siblings, and the family remains incredibly close-knit, even down to extended family. It's said that Ernie was the patriarch of the family. He was the one that planned everything and kept everyone together. He was the glue. He would often organise these huge family gatherings and reunions at the restaurant, and he was loved not just by his family, but by the entire community of Garden City. Everyone knew who he was, and his loss was deeply felt. Over 200 people attended his funeral, and they ran out of seats in the sanctuary, so they had to open up the overflow rooms, which still didn't hold everyone. That is a huge turnout for a small place like Garden City, which according to the latest numbers had a population of just 27,000 in 2019 when this happened. And to add more pain to an already incredibly painful time, due to his death, Ernie's family sadly lost both the restaurant and their family home. The night before his death, Ernie saw one of his sisters, Avery's grandmother, and just so happened to have an in-depth conversation with her about what would happen if he died. He said he wanted a large funeral and discussed specific details of this, saying that he had a piece of paper with all of the information that he was going to give her the next day. Some may hear this and question if he knew what was going to happen that day or if it was purely coincidental. Some think that it's just a case of instinct, that people naturally know when their time comes to an end. Others think that Ernie knew something was about to happen and he was preparing. However, after the funeral conversation, they went on to talk about preparations for Ernie's 70th birthday instead. That was upcoming on the 24th of November, so he clearly had plans to make it that far. The next morning, they were to have breakfast, at which Ernie spent an abnormally long time on the phone. His sister was just visiting from Wichita, about 3 hours away from Garden City. When she would visit, Ernie and his sister would eat breakfast together, and he would come into the kitchen and eat as she made it. But that morning, she had to actively go and get him to come and eat breakfast because he was so distracted. He said the phone call was about an upcoming annual fiesta in Garden City that weekend for the town's Mexican community, in which he always contributed and participated. But even so, his sister still found the length of this phone call odd at the time. He also at that point handed over the piece of paper that he mentioned the night before with his death plans, which showed all of the cemetery plots in which he was to be buried next to his family members. Ernie's sister left the home just after Ernie left for work and would receive the call that he'd been shot later that night. After finding out, family members in Garden City went to the hospital. Eventually, the hospital staff was able to inform the family that he had already been pronounced dead at 11:46 p.m. It was at that point that Ernie's sister, as well as many others, got in their cars and drove to Garden City, heading straight for the scene of the crime, the restaurant owned by the family. The family asked police officials there what had happened, but they were unable to tell them anything, simply saying that it was an ongoing investigation. When they asked where they could go to see Ernie, they were told that his body was already being transferred to Kansas City for autopsy, an autopsy that the family are still waiting on reports from. Although there haven't been any updates in this case in a really long time, there was actually something huge that happened not long after the murder. Someone was arrested for the crime. 11 days after the incident, on the 23rd of September, a 32-year-old man named Marcus Rohde, who police describe as a transient, was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He had multiple prior convictions, including intent to sell or cultivate near a school, possession and criminal damage to property, and he was on parole at the time for drug and criminal damage in 2 different counties. Despite police believing from early on that the motivation behind the crime was attempted robbery, no additional charges were brought forward. The police have never disclosed any evidence or reason as to why they sought to convict Marcus Rohde, and that remains up for speculation. According to news reports from the Garden City Telegram, Rohde didn't immediately cooperate with the police regarding the assignment of a defence lawyer, which did delay his first appearance in district court by a number of days. He refused to provide any personal or financial information about himself. However, he did eventually begin to cooperate and things moved forward. At around the same time, he also had to appear in court again in connection with another case, in which he communicated a threat to commit violence with the intent to place another in fear. He made this threat to 6 different law enforcement officers. I'm honestly not sure what the connection was between Rohde and Ernie or why he was arrested. There's so little information available for this case, but that doesn't make it any less important to share. By the end of 2020, all murder charges against Marcus Rohde in connection with the death of Ernie Ortiz had been dropped. A statement was released by the Finney County Attorney's Office reading, "Murder charges against Marcus Rohde have been dismissed without prejudice. Circumstances at this time dictate the dismissal of current charges without prejudice, meaning Rohde could be charged with the murder of Mr. Ortiz in the future should new or additional evidence come to light." That's interesting. They dismissed him but made a point of saying that he could be charged again with the murder if new evidence comes to light. To me, this suggests that he's potentially still a suspect in their eyes, but investigators simply couldn't find enough evidence to go forward to trial. Again, as I said earlier, many think this might be more than an attempted robbery case. It could be more personal than that. Perhaps Ernie had some kind of deal going on, maybe blackmail, maybe organised crime. I do have to agree that this case doesn't strike me as attempted robbery either. Why shoot Ernie but still fail to take the valuable belongings that were clearly on his person? It would take mere seconds to grab them and be on your way. Garden City is a small town and everyone knows everyone. The likelihood is that people know what's really happening but are afraid to come forward. There's also a 24-hour gas station right across the street, yet there's no footage showing what happened, and we don't know if a single person has said or seen anything. There's someone out there who knows what happened here. If you live in or around Garden City specifically, then please make sure you share this video, share this story. The family just want closure and are working with local authorities and Crime Stoppers to get it. They have also set up a GoFundMe page to raise awareness and raise funds towards the Crime Stoppers reward for Ernie Ortiz. Anyone with any information is asked to call the Garden City Police Department. Those wishing to remain anonymous can call Crime Stoppers. I'll leave the information for both down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If there's anything you can do, then please do it. Share this video, talk to people about it, especially if you live near Garden City, as I said, and hopefully we can get somewhere with this. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. I've just realised that the cat is on the bed and snoring. I thought I could hear something weird, couldn't figure out what it is. I think it's the cat snoring. If you could hear that in the last couple of minutes of the video, then please don't mind it. I just don't want to wake her up. Bye guys.